Jazz lost again last night, this time to the Phoenix Suns again. And you had Vivint Arena showering Devin Booker with MVP chants. Now, I will just say very simply, I don't understand why we need fans only and Pornhub when we can just watch Devin Booker highlights.
Yeah.
But my point is,
Right.
Devin Booker dominated this team.
Uh-huh.
And the hardest part about Devin Booker
Bro.
dominating this
Come on, guy. Come on.
dominating this team is that the Jazz did it to themselves. Joe Ingles not running back on defense, allowing Devin Booker to get a free run down the middle of the paint is unforgivable. The lack of attention to detail by Bojan Bogdanovic, allowing Devin Booker to run down the middle of the paint, is unforgivable. And the one trend that is unquestionably taking place on this Utah Jazz team right now is a bunch of veterans who just don't seem to give a damn because they're not playing hard, and Jake, they're not working hard. And my question simply is, has Quin Snyder lost this locker room?
Yeah, it does beg the question. You know, I think it's one thing to lose games, but it's another thing to lose games in a way where it just doesn't seem like you're trying that hard in certain situations. And I know that, you know, I don't want to be somebody who questions an athlete's, you know, effort level, but, you know, based on what we're seeing in the game, it just doesn't seem like they're working that hard. It seems like they're more interested in bitching about fouls or you know, what's something else going on in the game, you know, and this is where I say I feel like there's a dynamic at play here where half the roster is working its ass off and half is not. And that would be the young guys and guys like Eric Paschall working super hard on the floor to make things happen. And then you have veterans like, as you were just saying, Joe Ingles and Bojan Bogdanovic, who are not working hard. And I don't know, like, again, on that Devin Booker tomahawk, which was amazing, by the way, just from a pure basketball perspective. But on that play, as I'm watching it develop, you know, when you're playing defense in basketball and you're in a transition play, right, where you're running back on defense, but the offense is right behind you, you basically are taking the obvious lane, right? There's lanes on the floor as a defense that you're basically playing. And when you're an offensive player, you're looking to split those lanes. So as a defender, it's your job to basically get in front of the guy who has the ball to buy your guys time. And that's not taking place in transition defense for the Utah Jazz. And that's why you see Devin Booker tomahawking dunks repeatedly. And that's what's amazing to me. Like, a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic should have the presence of mind to say, okay, yeah, I know Book is coming. I know he's on my side of the floor. I need to be ready to step in front and foul this guy. Like, last night I'm watching this game and I'm like, dude, the Utah Jazz are more excited to foul you at the half court line to prevent the transition play than they are excited to, you know, be physical and stop you from getting to the rim. And that, I don't understand that concept. You would rather foul and go into the bonus than make them earn their stuff at the rim. And that's just not how the league works. And so, has Quin lost the team? I'm not quite sure I'm ready to say he's lost the team, but is there a lack of belief in where this team is going this season out of the veteran side of the roster? Absolutely. I don't even think that's in question. I think guys like Jingles and Bogdanovic are seriously questioning what's going on with this team right now. Because last year, if you remember, they were the 1 seed, right? Everything was great. They were able to absorb injuries, but still they were able to go out and win the Western Conference. This year, it's a lot different. This year, you're a 4-5 seed right now. You're trying not to fall below that. All you're focused on as a team right now is getting Donovan Mitchell back this weekend, allegedly. And apparently that's going to fix all. But what do we know as fans and people who go on the show every day and talk about the team? We know even when Don and Rudy and everybody's at full strength, that this team is going to struggle to win a title. So that's why I say as the season wears on, because it is a marathon. But as the season wears on, the mental side of the game is going to start to come into the picture. And that's where I think the Quin Snyder conversation is unfortunately going to be dragged up, whether he likes it or not. It's going to be dragged to the forefront of the conversation. And he's going to have to work really hard to make sure that these guys don't lose faith.
But listen, unequivocally, no, they shouldn't fire Quin Snyder. Not right now.
No.
I think in the offseason, you have to make a coaching change. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But if we're keeping it real on this show, which generally we do,
Yeah.
I think Quin Snyder has to get more out of the players that he has on this roster now. I mean, it's unforgivable that Joe Ingles is not giving you 100% effort when he's on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unthinkable. It's unfathomable. Like the most basic tenet that you talked about in basketball is stopping the basketball. And Bojan Bogdanovic just chose not to do that last night.
Yeah.
Multiple times. I go back to the Hassan Whiteside foul on Jalen Smith with, under 2 minutes to go.
Who?
You're within reach, and Hassan Whiteside is bowling over Jalen Smith.
How many people even know who Jalen Smith is?
Probably not many. He's a young center for the Phoenix Suns. It was away from the ball. The incident was inconsequential. Mike Conley had likely gotten fouled by Devin Booker at the rim. They don't call that. They call an offensive foul on Hassan Whiteside, and it's clearly a foul, as you can see on my Twitter timeline.
Yeah.
It's clearly a foul, and then Hassan gets a technical on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's inexplicable that this team is being failed by its veterans. And I don't know what's going on with Donovan Mitchell and his concussion. I don't know how bad Rudy's calf is. Those two incidents, those two issues are not the biggest problem for this team.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, you can live in the narrative that if this team gets healthy, they win more games. I'd even agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would disagree on that.
I totally. They're not a championship contender with everybody they have right now at 100%. They're not. It's because their veterans are either tired or lazy, and they're not motivated.
Yeah.
And
somehow
that 100% falls on Quin Snyder. I don't know any other way to put that.
Yeah, and I want to play this sound from Quin Snyder last night in the post game. We're having this conversation about sort of the guys who are playing now versus the guys who are not playing, and some of the guys now are working hard, and some of the other guys are not. And this was basically just Quin last night, kind of giving his thoughts on where the team was at.
Well, think about the guys that are out there, and when those guys are back. Not that you're not thinking about them, but it doesn't do us any good to lament that and say, okay, well, when we get healthy, when we get, that's part of an NBA season, and I'm not, however I sound, I'm not like, I would have liked to play better, but, we've got a team that's capable, and I believe in them. Which is part of the reason that, that there's frustration from all of us.
I get it. I'd be frustrated too, but if you believe in this team, what does that mean? And this is, I'm not trying to crush the media, but please, God, somebody ask him, well, when you say you believe in this team, tell me what that means. Do you believe that this is a championship contending team? I need that answer out of Quin Snyder.
Yeah.
What does that mean that you believe in this team? Because I don't think there's an NBA analyst, insider, player, coach that believes the Utah Jazz are a championship contending team right now. And
I don't think it's taboo to say that either. I don't think that's like hot take guy on the radio. Say, now the Jazz aren't a title contender. I don't think that's what that is. I think that's just pragmatic in the reality of the situation. And I feel like right now everyone's so focused on, okay, well, who are they going to trade for? What are they going to do? What are the possibilities? Can they go and get Covington or Harrison Barnes or Marcus Smart or any of these guys out on the market? Can they go and get those guys? And the truth is, and I think what's really a ball buster for dedicated Jazz fans is that even if you go and get Harrison Barnes, and let's say that it was Joe and Bogey to get Harrison Barnes, just as a hypothetical. Does losing those two and gaining Harrison Barnes make you what you want to be?
But this Harrison Barnes rumor, again, if you didn't hear the rumor, the Jazz are supposedly linked to Harrison Barnes by Sam Amick of The Athletic. Sam is a quality guy, really good NBA guy. But what sense does it make for the Sacramento Kings, who have told you they're going to build this team around Tyrese Halliburton and the Fox?
Yeah, Swipa.
What sense does it make to trade Harrison Barnes a younger athletic player for older unathletic players who are making no effort on the floor right now.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, the issue in Sacramento, the reason that they're going to build around De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton, and the reason they're going to wind up trading Harrison Barnes and Buddy Hield is because they don't oftentimes make a huge amount of effort. And Buddy Hield is a volume shooter, and Harrison Barnes will bring you draft picks unless you trade him to the Utah Jazz, and they have no draft picks to trade you.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily believe it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. Now, if it's the Lakers, Kings, and Jazz in a trade, okay, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
If it's the Jazz as a third team, and I hear this every single day when I talk to NBA people, I try to take the pulse of the NBA and talk to guys on a regular basis to stay in the news and kind of keep on top of what's being talked about. I have not heard that the Jazz are close to a one-on-one deal with anybody. And I think that's the biggest problem, is that the Jazz don't control their fate at this moment because they can't go out and leverage a team and make a deal. They just don't have the assets to do that. And I think Harrison Barnes is in demand. So when you look at the Jazz, and there is no question, nobody denies that the Utah Jazz have been the most active team on the phones trying to get a deal done in the next week to 10 days. They don't have a deal that they can pull the trigger on right now today, or they would have done it.
Yeah.
And again, the issue is, you look at the guys they're talking about. You look at the Ben Simmons. You look at the Harrison Barnes. Those guys are in demand around the league. And there is nothing that tells you that the Utah Jazz have the assets to get Ben Simmons or Harrison Barnes. Nothing.
Right.
It would have to be a three-teamer and probably 5 to 7 players. And how many of those trades actually happen every year? Not very many. And it's just unfortunate that you are over a barrel thanks to really poor management financially and with assets.
Yeah.
That's just who you are. So when we talk about the Brooklyn Nets and James Harden, they're not going to trade James Harden in the season, they say. And James Harden wants out of there. Well, the Brooklyn Nets are largely in the same situation that the Jazz are. The only problem is the Brooklyn Nets have superstar players that other teams want. Philadelphia, I think, would chop off a limb to get James Harden on that roster right now today.
I want it.
I mean, they would. I think Philly would love to have James Harden today.
Yep.
They could probably make that deal happen. I just don't think the Nets want to trade James Harden right now. I think the Nets would very much like to trade Kyrie Irving. I just don't know that anybody would take him.
Yeah.
So my point in saying all this is, I look around the NBA and trades are going to happen. I think major trades probably don't happen, but I could see the Cleveland Cavaliers making trades. I could see the Washington Wizards making deals. I mean, I don't see any reason that Montrezl Harrell stays put, because there are teams up and down the Western Conference that would love to have Montrezl Harrell on their roster. The Golden State Warriors would love to have Montrezl Harrell on the roster.
Yeah.
It's a matter of what will it take to get him, but I could see those kind of trades happening. I can't see a guy like a James Harden getting moved out of Brooklyn, because I just don't think they want to. Those are the trades you need to happen if you're the Utah Jazz, so that you can get in on the backside of that deal and move an expiring contract in Joe Ingles. I am so incredibly shocked at the rapid decline of Joe Ingles.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I am stunned by it.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of times when I'm watching Jazz games and I'm like, oh, yeah, Joe's going to knock this one down. You gave him way too much space, and then it doesn't go in. And you're like, man, like, where did he go? Like, what changed? What all of a sudden Joe Ingles can't knock down 3 of 5 in a game?
Yeah.
Because that's who he used to be. And it's like, I feel like, I know James and our Australian contingent, if you will, loves Joe Ingles. And I love what Joe Ingles did last year. He brought a lot of presence from the 3-point line. But yeah, the decline is definitely been out there.
It's not that you're getting your shot blocked. It's not that your skill is in decline. It's not that you're 33, 34 years old. It's that you're not playing hard. You're not running back. He got his shot block last night on the Devin Booker dunk down the middle of the lane in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Joe Ingles goes to the basket, and Bismack Biyombo blocks his shot. Joe Ingles went to the baseline and then trotted back on defense. Did not run back hard on defense, and it left Bojan Bogdanovic to be one-on-one with a fast-breaking Devin Booker, who went up and threw the ball down.
Yeah, Bojan thought better of that, didn't he?
And it's because Bojan Bogdanovic has responsibilities to the shooter in the corner, but never committed to stopping the ball, but shouldn't have been in that situation because Joe Ingles has to run hard on defense to compensate for his block shot. And Joe Ingles just trotted down the floor.
Well, and I think
It's
think
shocking.
The Bojan situation is also indicative of where this team is at, because any basketball team that's locked in and like really giving, 100%, or as they say 110%, giving it the game your all, nobody would just allow a player, Devin Booker or otherwise, to just free run to the rim uncontested. And that's what that was. And so, yeah, he did have responsibility in the corner, but I can tell you right now, no NBA coach is going to say to a player on defense, yeah, let's give up a tomahawk dunk in an effort to make sure the guy in the corner who doesn't have the ball can't shoot the three. Nobody's saying that, right? Nobody would ever ask you or tell you to do that. And so when I was watching that play happen live, I agree with you about Joe Ingles. I was like, why is Joe not still in the picture?
Well, Quinn even talked about it.
Yeah.
Quinn said our guys are not running back on defense.
Yeah, they're
We're
not working
getting down
hard.
the floor.
And I think that, so you have the Joe portion of that play, but then you look at Bogey and you're like, dude, like you had in the NBA, I want to like put this in perspective about how long these guys have to make decisions, because it's not very long. So in the NBA, when you're in transition and you're Bojan Bogdanovic on that play, you've got maybe less than a second to make a decision on whether you're going to step up to Devin Booker or whether you're just going to let him free run. And it's in that moment where I want guys like Bogey to be like, yep, I'm at least going to make him Euro step to get to the rim. I'm at least going to make him step to the side or whatever. Like it just can't happen. You can't have teams free running to your rim and embarrassing you on your floor, right? You ended up losing this game by whatever it was. I don't even remember what the final score ended up being, but that's not even the point of the conversation. The point of the conversation is how you win about this game and how you've been going about games. And I just hope that when Donovan Mitchell comes back, yes, obviously they'll be better on the floor, but I hope the culture gets fixed a little bit, because right now it's very sloppy, very lazy, just not engaged at all, and that's disappointing.
All right, let's see what some of the commenters are saying. Good morning to everybody. Appreciate you. If you're here right now, make sure you look at our affiliate links. We added the almighty, the ashwagandha supplement to the affiliate links.
Let's go.
I take it every day.
Lidocaine and B12.
Well, it's better than lidocaine and B12, which I take B12 every day too. But ashwagandha is a great supplement. It is a really good stress relief, anxiety relief. It makes you feel the difference when you start taking ashwagandha. And by the way, it also helps the lower extremity be more lower in extremity. Leg type situation, you know what I'm saying? Anyway,
no question.
Yeah, ashwagandha works great. There's an affiliate link for it below. Also, our at-home COVID test that everybody asks us about. Again, if you want to know the things we buy on Amazon, the affiliate links are always there. At-home COVID test, the ashwagandha supplement.
I take ashwagandha as well, just so we're on the same page.
It makes it, I'll tell you, it helps me sleep. It really makes a difference, because I know that, like, we're in a high pressure. Not our 9 to 5 at the Yelpatory, which we're going to talk about in a bit, is high pressure. And I do notice that I feel more relaxed on ashwagandha. It makes a huge difference. Add it to your arsenal. Check out the affiliate link below. Frank Orion says hello.
Hello.
Good to see you. Cody Strickland, good morning too. He says Jazz really suck right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Brylark says, what's up, boys? Being a Jazz fan is so much fun.
You're casual.
JP Stevens Shanahan's in the asshole says, sit. Shanahan, what's up? Good to see you, buddy. Love the shirt, boys. Arms fit perfect. Nice.
Okay, yeah. By the way, with the Xbox giveaway, just saying.
There's been a lot more questions since guys have been tweeting out pictures of the shirt.
What are the questions?
Do you have mediums? I don't. You should lift, so you need an extra large. We have 4 shirts left, XL and 2X. They're $25 each if you would like one of those shirts. Our artist is on vacation. He will be back next week. We will drop a You're a Casual shirt.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
You're a casual.
But we have 4 shirts left, XL and 2X, $25. DM me your address, and I'll hit you with the Venmo. Is the best way that we accept payment on Venmo. If you just want to Venmo us $25, it's at the Monty Show _ on Venmo.
And buying a shirt gets you extra entries into the Xbox giveaway.
If you buy a shirt, you get 5-to-1 entries on the Xbox X giveaway, which, by the way, we are only 89 subscribers on YouTube away. I don't know how we've picked up so many this week, but we've picked up a couple hundred subscribers this week, which is great. Giving away an Xbox apparently does that. But yeah, we are at 2,911. When we get to 3,000, we will announce. We had been teetering around 2,600, and we've added hundreds of subscribers this week on this Xbox giveaway. So it's going to be.
I've never taken steroids.
Yeah, ever. Well, the YouTube channel and stuff. Jake, you were pleasuring yourself to photos of Joe Burrow. What would KD say?
I mean,
Tanner
listen, your best ability is your availability. Kevin Durant's got a sprained MCL. He's not playing right now, so smoking Joe is my new cup of tea.
Wow. James Knight says, put it away. There was no defensive player of the year, no superstar. This is not about Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. It's not. They've lost, 9 of 11?
Hold on. We're not talking about the winning or losing here. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
That's not what we're discussing here.
Yeah.
Just so we're on the same page, we're not talking about the fact that they lost the game, and that's why you should be concerned. Defensive player of the year or not, it literally has no effect on the conversation we're having. The conversation is Joe Ingles was on the floor and was lazy as hell last night. The conversation is Devin Booker was at the hash with the ball, running at full speed, and Bojan Bogdanovic didn't want to step in front of him. What does that have to do with Rudy Gobert?
And can we stop taking fouls to stop fast breaks? I mean, the bonus situation every night for the Jazz.
It kills them.
Man, stop taking the backcourt foul.
And they're not the only one who does it. And I think that the league is gonna come up with a rule to.
Well, but I think it's not that they're the only one who does it. But when you foul as much as it's the Hassan Whiteside foul. When you commit fouls like that, and then 2-3 times a game you're fouling guys in the backcourt, you're giving them free points. You're giving anyway. Tanner says the Jazz have lost 9 of 11 games. I didn't think they were going to do much in the playoffs, but I didn't expect them to fall apart. James Knight says, pretty sure Chris Paul and Devin Booker were bitching about fouls too, right? My frustration with the Hassan Whiteside foul, which is what I think James is referencing, you 2-arm shoved a guy to the floor. They call a foul on you. And then you went and complained that you didn't foul the guy. Like it's Giannis last night getting dunked on, clearly fouling the guy and then being like, I never touched him. Are you serious? Like those are the complaints that drive me crazy.
The issue with the Hassan foul is that there was no need for it. Where were you going? You weren't going to set a screen. You weren't going to do something in some kind of set that you were running.
It was off the ball.
You just ran through a guy and then were upset that the foul was called. And so when you combine that with all of the, hey, let's prevent transition tomahawk dunks by Devin Booker fouls, when you combine those two things, you're going to be in the bonus super quick. So, if you want to stay on, if you want to die on the hill of oh, well, everybody else bitches about fouls. Why is it a problem when the Jazz do it? Okay, fine. Die on that hill, dude. But
you were down 4, and Mike Conley was going to the basket for a layup. He likely had gotten fouled by Devin Booker. And Hassan takes that away.
Yeah.
You were down 4 with under 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
To commit that foul is just
dumb. It's not good basketball.
It played a big part of why you lost that game, because the game was over at that point. You were not going to win the game at that point. 50 points on the sidelines and you got beat by 8. That's not why you lost that game. You were in position to win that game last night. It's a cultural issue.
Yeah.
It's not fit. And by the way, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, it's not a 50-point thing. Yet, like that, James. Anyway, Calvin Howard says Donovan is a crybaby. Quin Snyder has been the problem for a while. Yeah, I think it is. I just think that the culture on this team has fallen apart.
Dude, if you want to say to yourself there's 50 points on the bench, you're up in the night, okay? Yeah, sure. Is there 50 points between those two guys on a nightly basis not being scored? Yeah. But that doesn't mean that they scored. What did they score? 95 points or whatever it was? I can't remember.
107 to 95 final
They
score.
scored 95 points. So is your case that they would have scored 145 points on the Suns last night? No, they wouldn't have scored 145 points on the Suns last night. So again, with all due respect, come up with a better take. That is just not a well thought out thing. Yeah, would they be better with Don and Rudy on the floor? Sure, of course they would. Nobody's disagreeing with that. But we're not having a conversation about wins and losses and man, this is an embarrassment because they lost this game. That's not what we're saying.
He also says, did it ever occur to you casuals that Joe is a 34-year-old no leg to suggest it's effort based? It's frankly disrespectful with all due respect. Quin Snyder called him out after the game last night. You're 34, you're playing in the NBA. Does that mean you can't run hard? Run as hard as you can. You got your shot blocked.
There is no excuse for not giving your level best effort. None.
He got his shot blocked and pouted about it. And it led to a Devin Booker dunk. Anyway.
Notice real quick on the Joe Ingles thing. Notice we've moved on from Joe Ingles was in Paul George's head. Notice we've moved on from Joe Ingles as one of the most prolific three-point shooters in the league. Now what are we bitching about? Now what are we complaining about? What is your excuse about Joe Ingles now? Oh, well, he's old, and you guys are just ripping on him. So we agree. Joe Ingles is old. He shouldn't be on the floor most nights, but he is on the floor because you have injuries. So we agree about Joe Ingles. The difference is you want to defend him, and we're just telling you what the reality of the situation is, which is he has a pride complex. He got blocked. He didn't want to go back down, and that resulted in Bojan Bogdanovic being on an island in no man's land, and ultimately Devin Booker threw it down in your face on your home court.
Yeah.
That's just what it is, man, and I understand you don't like it. You can say it's disrespectful, but the problem with that is that the facts say that he was lazy on that play. There's nothing to argue.
Quin Snyder straight up said we didn't run hard on defense. He was talking about Joe Ingles. Come on, man. Brylark says, I've never heard Quinn so dejected. He's searching hard for answers and not coming up with any. Frank Orion says, Daniel House Jr. believes something like that the Jazz have all the things they need to become a championship contender, so something needs to be done. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
What else is Daniel House Jr. going to say? Is he going to say that they're a bum team? But
this team should be better. This team should be better than they're performing now.
I agree.
I mean, there is too much talent on this roster, Don and Rudy or not. There's too much talent on this roster to lose 9 of 11 games.
Yeah.
9 of 11 games.
Yeah.
And again, it's defense. I just go back to what I consistently say. This team is built around the wrong guy. And when you're built on defense and you can't defend, you're going to lose a lot of games. And they are built around Rudy Gobert, and it's a huge problem for this team. And the only way to change that is to transform this roster, because you have a bunch of dudes who can't keep guys out of the paint, period. I mean, the Suns last night, the last 2 nights that you've played, you've watched the Suns just get into the paint. Get into the paint.
It's the same way both games.
Consistently, and whether Rudy's there or not, they're still getting in the paint.
Rudy Gobert is not solving Devin Booker getting wide open looks at the elbow. Can we all agree on that?
Cody Strickland says, what are you guys talking about? You guys know we have a perimeter defender in Buckets O'Neal, and why am I playing Whiteside on our team? Do you guys even watch Jazz games?
You're casual.
We don't watch Jazz games.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Did it ever look, Anyway. James, I love the full heel turn you're doing on the show. We need some flavor like that in our chat. Joe is not a 25-plus minute player anymore. He's not. He's not. At where he is physically, Joe Ingles should not be playing more than 20 minutes a night.
No.
He just is not. And this is the problem with development. You need Elijah Hughes to play the Joe Ingles minutes.
The extra 5 to 7 minutes that Joe can't play anymore.
You need and Elijah Hughes to step into that gap and do that, because Elijah shoots the three well, and he's a better physical defender than Joe Ingles is. That's what you need. You need a guy to step up. I mean, frankly, Trent Forrest is getting an opportunity, and you're seeing now anytime you have a role player and you put him into a primetime role, when you take a 10-minute guy and you give him 30 minutes, all of the moles are going to be exposed now.
Yeah.
Like all of the deficiencies. So you're seeing that in some of these guys.
Yeah.
Daniel House Jr. has been a really good addition for this team.
Yeah.
I mean, he brings some of the energy that you need, and it'll be interesting to see. You need that X factor guy. That's one of the major things that this team lacks. You don't have that Patty Mills. You don't have
it was
that.
Jordan Clarkson.
Well, it used to be,
It was Jordan Clarkson, but Jordan Clarkson, for whatever reason, is just having a rough year. I mean, you're talking about a guy last year who was your sixth man of the year, who was dominant off the bench, and a major reason why your team went as far as it did. But then this year, he just, I mean, there's no other way to really say it. I'm not trying to be negative, but the numbers say, and the eye test says, hey, he's just not making as many shots this year as he did last year. And I don't know how you explain that other than he's just having a rough year.
Yeah.
What else do you say?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Ingles, frankly, is not your biggest issue right now. It is that I think this team has lost its way. I think it's lost the belief in itself. And I think you need a significant change. And from everything I understand, the Jazz are trying to do that.
I think right now, if you're Quin Snyder and you're this team and you're not – because if you're Quin Snyder, you're not – your job isn't to worry about whether you're going to be here next year or anything. Your job is to win games that are right in front of you. So if you're Quin Snyder, I would think the thought process is, okay, we just got to get through the adversity that is this stretch without our two best players. That's step number one.
Yeah.
We just have to work through this.
I would agree with that.
Then, once we get Don and Rudy back, now our run back up the Western Conference begins. Because that's ultimately what you're tasked with. Hey, Don's been out. Rudy's been out. We get these guys back. Now it's my job as the head coach of this basketball team to get this team all moving in the same direction so we can get up to ideally the 3 seed. Because I don't think that you're right now, even with Don and Rudy, I don't think you're going to beat the Warriors and the Suns consistently with what they offer.
Yeah, Brandon makes a good point. Brandon says, I would love a Harrison Barnes trade, but if that's the only trade we make, don't make the trade because it doesn't help us on its own.
It's a great point.
It's a
really good point. And that's why I say,
point.
It doesn't surprise me to hear that, Danny Ainge has been on the phone a ton trying to see what's out there. That's what I think this situation requires. You got to call everybody and see, okay, I've got Team A that's offering me this, Team B, Team C, Team D. What do we like?
Let's be honest. If this team is 100%, everybody that's currently on the roster, if the Utah Jazz are 100%, does making a Harrison Barnes trade make them a championship contender?
If you can keep Bojan Bogdanovic, it does. But I don't think you can to get that done.
I don't think you can either. I think it's a matter of what would it cost you.
Yeah.
Because my guess is you'd have to – I mean, are the Sacramento Kings going to replace Buddy Hield with Jordan Clarkson? Because, I mean, that's where Buddy Hield is right now. Does a Bojan Bogdanovic or a Jordan Clarkson make, De'Aaron or Halliburton better? Probably not.
I think, though, if you're Danny Ainge, you can come up with a way to sell the Kings on why Bogey would work. And that's what I think makes Danny Ainge special. I think that's what's given him the ability to make – because remember, this is a guy who's made some pretty damn big trades in his history as a front office executive. So I'm not saying that the Kings are going to be like, oh, my God, I need Bojan Bogdanovic.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's part of this conversation where I could see Danny Ainge is on the phone with the Kings. He's got a sales package for why they need Bojan Bogdanovic.
I'm sorry, did you say package?
Yes, a package. Yes, a big – large, thick package on why they need Bojan Bogdanovic. And he's going to try and sell the hell out of that. And hopefully the Kings bite. That's where they are. That's what you have to do.
Real quick before we get to you smoking Joe Burrow.
Right, yeah. Smoking Joe.
I mean, we're at the point of the season now having this conversation where I think you've got a lot of clarity on who's legit and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look out west, I mean, that picture is much more solidified. I don't think there's any doubt the Suns are the best team in the NBA right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even without, a couple of real integral pieces, DeAndre Ayton in particular. But, I mean, you can see that they are, I think, by far the best team in the West.
Right.
And I don't see a team in the East that's better than them, including Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, who's a real threat to them? I mean, a healthy Golden State certainly would seem.
Yeah, I think the West is a two-team conference right now. It's the Suns and the Warriors, and I think those just right now are the two best teams. I think everybody else is kind of in the melting pot. I want to see. So everybody's really hot on Memphis, and for good reason. They deserve that respect. But I want to see them play legit, fully healthy, fully good to go Klay Thompson. That's what I want to see. I want to see how the Warriors play when Klay Thompson is at his level best, making the shots he typically makes. So to me, right now, I think it's a two-team league or two-team conference with the Suns and the Warriors, and I think everybody else is just kind of in that melting pot. And I think that the Lakers are in turmoil right now. I think LeBron is playing out of his ever-loving mind right now.
It's amazing.
It's beautiful to watch. But I think that the Russell Westbrook thing, until that's resolved, until they move on from him or until it's decided that he's going to be here and you just got to make it work, they're not going to move forward and take that next step that we all expect them to take. So it's just going to be a matter of how long it takes them to figure that out, honestly.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, you're looking at a Suns team that's still continuing to win without Jay Crowder and without DeAndre Ayton.
Which is wild, man.
I think the contribution that the Suns are getting from Bismack Biyombo is pretty legit. I mean,
well, that's what led to the conversation this morning. If you think about it, I mean, that block is what led to the whole thing.
12 points and 3 blocks, 6 boards for Biyombo last night. What did you look at Jalen Smith playing 19 minutes? He gives you 8 points, a steal, 2 blocks, and 7 boards. I mean, like, they're getting output from guys that they don't count on.
Yeah.
And so when you look at how good the Suns can be, how much better is this team if Jay Crowder's wrist isn't jacked right now and he's playing defense? Much better. How much better are they if if their focal point is DeAndre Ayton again and they're able to play inside out instead of right now they're playing outside and letting guys clean up? Like, I mean, they're able to play both ways. And by the way, you have a GM that just got a contract extension in James Jones that I think is going to make deals at the deadline. So the Suns team we saw last night beat the Jazz by 8 points or what have you is not even the best version of this Suns team.
Well, and I think the Suns, like I think the best way I would describe these couple of teams here is that it seems like for the Suns and the Warriors, the tide is going up, right? Everything's great, positive. Everybody's rising.
And energy,
There's momentum. Yeah, like momentum and energy. And I think for the Jazz, that's where they were last year, and now they're in a different place. And that's why I guess it's so hard, because I would love to be able to talk about the Jazz being right there next to the Suns and Warriors and this being a three-dog fight and the best man wins. But that's just not where it's at right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think there's anybody else. If the Lakers and Rockets make this trade, I think the Lakers become instantly championship contending quality. I mean, if you add John Wall, if you add a dynamic, healthy point guard to that lineup, the West is going to be much more
better shooter, a better guy on offense.
Just a guy who understands, and this is the thing that worries you about, the Jazz making a Marcus Smart trade. Does Marcus Smart understand he's not your best offensive player? Because Marcus Smart likes him some Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
Right? Like a guy like John Wall is so thirsty to get back into regular minutes in the NBA. I think he would fit right in there, and it immediately removes a bunch of dysfunction that the Lakers have been dealing with.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I mean,
it's a whole different ballgame, man.
Yeah, it changes things significantly. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, out east, I still want to know what Philly's going to do with Ben Simmons. If they truly want to hang on to him to make a run at James Harden in the offseason, adding Ben Simmons to Brooklyn is probably not the best idea for Philadelphia. So I don't see them adding, James Harden in a trade. I could see them shipping out Ben Simmons at the deadline to make room, in the summer for James Harden. I could absolutely see that happening.
Yeah.
But they've had so many opportunities to do that. I mean, the latest rumor was the Bulls were after Ben Simmons, which makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the Bulls are so dinged up right now. I mean, you get Javonte Green back in Chicago, and now you've lost Alex Caruso for 6 to 8 weeks, who I think it's not that you're going to miss Caruso on the floor. Now it lowers his trade value a little bit because he's a guy that a lot of people thought, hey, the Bulls are going to be able to move Alex Caruso to improve themselves.
Headband Caruso, please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because they need help, in the middle.
Yeah.
Even though I thought Vucevic played really well for the Bulls last night. He hit an incredibly important jumper and played some good defense. But, I mean, Vucevic is just so damn soft. So
yeah, that's an area they need to improve on if they want to continue to climb.
Yeah, I don't look at the Bulls as a championship contender in the East. I just don't think they have. I mean, as much as I like DeSumo and as much as I like Javonte Green,
they feel like a next year team.
Yeah,
that's what they feel like.
Their core is Levine and DeRozan. DeRozan's still playing at an MVP level. But right now, I mean, Derek Jones Jr. is a huge loss for them because he's able to guard the 3, 4, or 5. So anyway, here and there, I don't look at them as a contender. And now I think the Miami Heat are starting to play their best basketball of the year.
Yeah.
And that they are always aggressive at the deadline. I love what Cleveland's doing right now.
Cleveland's a Cinderella story. Nobody saw this coming. Evan Mobley, again, the dunk on Giannis.
Man.
You've got Darius Garland. You've got some pieces over there. And I think, again, you've got several teams that are like a year away, and that's why I think Memphis is dangerous. Not to go back to the West, but when I look at the Bulls and I look at the Cavs and I look at the Heat, and then I look at the Grizzlies and I'm like, man, the Grizzlies would probably kick the hell out of all three of those teams. They probably would.
Look at Charlotte 5 over.
Yeah, So I don't know. I just think there is a mix of teams out east that are good teams, but not championship contenders. And I think the championship contenders out east, assuming that the Sixers make a move, would be the Nets, the Bucks, and the Sixers. I think those three teams are just going to crush themselves getting to the finals.
By the way, when everybody laughed at me about Jamal Murray the other week when I said Jamal Murray was probably 14 to 21 days away, yeah, the Denver Nuggets say he's 2 weeks away.
You're casual.
By the way, also Michael Porter Jr., this was the shocking one. Listening, because I have no life. I mean, I literally have no life.
Never.
It's ridiculous. I'm listening to Sirius XM NBA radio yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about Michael Porter Jr. now is practicing and warming up. He's taking part in pregame shooting. And I'm telling you, if that team gets MPJ back, if that team gets Jamal Murray back.
Jamal's the one they need. Jamal is the one they need.
If they get those two guys back, Denver's now a top 5 team in the West. I mean, they just need to get into the playoffs. They're teetering. They're 6th right now. They're teetering on the playoffs.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that 7, 8, 9, 10 spot.
They ain't trying to be in the play-in, bro.
No. I mean, and the Lakers, by the way, the Lakers better be careful.
Yeah.
The Lakers, that's why.
Just hold your water.
And yes, Memphis is for real. And if you say they're not, I'm punching you in the face. Make sure you hit subscribe. We're giving away.
I'm going to say this again.
Hit subscribe. Make sure you hit subscribe because we're giving away this Xbox Series S right here.
X.
Dude,
bro.
You stupid fuck.
This is an X, not an S.
Hey, make sure you hit subscribe on the channel right now.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Because we're giving away, thanks, Joe. Thank you, Joe. We're giving away this Xbox Series X when we get to 3,000 subs.
Yeah.
If you buy a T-shirt from us, we only have 4 left, I think it is now, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
For $25, you get 5 entries to win the Xbox Series X.
$50 could make you 800.
Funky Orion says, oh, things got intense now. At least they're aware they're struggling. When Rudy Gay went to Utah, he believed the Jazz were a team that can win a championship. Uh-oh!
Mm-hmm.
Guys. If you could say which year had the best BMX bike, which one is it?
Who the fuck are you?
1976. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
Duh. What an idiot.
I just saw a video of them last night, and Gay looked super pissed. Probably should. Jeremy Bolton says, LOL, did you just say the Bulls would have to move Caruso to make themselves better? Beautifully said. No, that's actually not what I said. What I said was I think the Bulls realize they're not a championship caliber team right now. And I think Alex Caruso is one of their better trade chips. They need assets right now because the Bulls this summer, I think this coming summer for the Bulls is a critical piece because there's not a whole lot of guys on that roster you want to move.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Io DeSumo is
Stud.
I mean, that kid is going to be something spectacular.
Yeah.
He is. I agree. There's a lot of people in Chicago that believe he is the next Derrick Rose. I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think he needs 2 years, and he could be at that level. He is a player.